Haiti borders with the Dominican.
Her name is Serena Buffalino. They call her Mrs. B, and her class always begins with a pledge.
Something local, something global. Haiti.
They're words that carry weight here. Helping yourself means helping others, giving back, here and a world away in Haiti.
And nobody's helping them, except for people like us.
It was through her the class learned of Haiti, of the nearly 1 million orphans, many with no school, no support, no Mrs. B in their lives.
They could not wrap their head around that.
Mrs. B's students are among Toronto's most at risk. Their challenges vary from emotional and behavioral difficulties to learning disabilities. Their trauma so severe they can't function in a regular school setting, and we aren't allowed to show most of their classmates.
For most of the kids, most of society has turned them away. And in this classroom, they're accepted. They're accepted no matter what for who they are.
Take Yolanda. She came here last year so burdened and withdrawn, she would often fall silent, sometimes for days on end. It was, she says, Mrs. B's patience, her quiet encouragement, that saved her.
She actually saves people's lives from dangers.
And perhaps that's why these marginalized kids feel such a kinship with the orphans of Haiti, and why they were moved to act.
And so when Yolanda and Jackie and Patrick said, well, Miss B, we need to build them a school.
Build a school, no easy task. They started out raising money. They sold samosas, washed cars, screened movies, you name it. And in just a few months, this little class raised $20,000. So much, it's not just a one-room schoolhouse they can build, but a full 3-story school. And so Mrs. B set off on a journey she'd dreamed of, up into the dusty mountains above Port-au-Prince to a town called Canaan. It's home to thousands of earthquake refugees who live with no running water, no electricity, and no school, until now. The first step was a temporary school. It's up and running, 53 students already in uniform. The permanent school for 250 is growing from its foundations.
It makes me want to cry because she just makes me feel so awed, and I'm very proud of her.
All of this because of a handful of students back in Canada. And Mrs. B, the teacher who believed in them.
These are for you.
At another fundraiser, a special tribute to the students, accepted by someone who without Mrs. B might not be here.
They believe in me and I believe in them, and together we not only change our lives, but we change the world around us.
For inspiring great things and seeing the potential in everyone, Serena Buffalino is this week's Everyday Hero.
Good morning, bonjour, ni hao, hola, bienvenue, wan ying, bienvenidos, and welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And each week, I have the amazing opportunity to take you on a journey to places you've never been before, to stories you've never heard before. Each week, I get to take you on a mental, physical, and spiritual adventure into the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry. When you look at gemstones, when you begin to really understand gemstones, you begin to understand that gemstones are so much more than just something that you wear around your neck or your ears or your fingers. When you study the art of gemstones and how gemstones evolved, you understand that gemstones was used for their healing purposes long before they became jewelry. In fact, I was reading a book by Scott Cunningham. I think the name of the book was Crystals, Magic, and Gemstones. And it was saying how up until about the 19th century, gemstones, that the history of magic was the history of jewelry. Because people understood on a much higher level what a gemstone can do, what it meant. And I didn't always believe in what people call as metaphysics. I didn't really always believe that because I was a scientist. So when you look at the stories and when you look at the different things that gemstones can do, as a scientist, I can't give you any kind of empirical data. Remember that word from science, empirical data. That means data that you can actually prove. I can't give you a sapphire and say, well, sir, if you eat this, use this, wear this sapphire will do something for you. I can't do that. But that's not real. That's not where the power of gemstones are. The power in gemstones lies in the stories. In the stories themselves, when you begin to understand what gemstones can do, what people, most importantly, what people believe that gemstones could do, then you begin to understand what the power of gemstones. I had a viewer. Thank you guys so much again each week for your comments, your questions. And I had a question from a viewer from Laurent, France, Francoise. I want to pronounce the name right, Francoise, who is watching my show right now in this little tiny town called Laurens, France, which is just near the Pyrenees Mountains, next to about maybe 15 minutes from Spain. And she asked, and again, Laurens, tell you the difference between French and English. Laurens is spelled L-A-R-U-N-S, the runs. We won't get into what that means in the United States or in English, but Laurens sounds so, and it's a little tiny town, about 1,180 people. I had more people in my high school. But Francoise asked the question, what is magic? When I say art, science, history, magic, what am I talking about? When I began to study gemology, I knew that the magic was there because when you're studying it, you see all these terms about magical powers and spiritual powers, but I didn't believe it. But once you start looking at it, once you start seeing the representation of gemstones in people, then it becomes clear. This month has been really exciting for me because this is the month of June. In fact, this is the last day of June. I've had 5 Wednesdays with you talking about something that you very rarely get a chance to talk about in gemology, which is, first of all, this is the month of romance. June is the month of romance. It's the month of love. And it's really interesting to me how the gemstones that are the gemstones for the month of June is all gemstones that are romantic gemstone. I don't know if I said March. For some reason, March is. This is the month of June. This is the last day of June, and we're talking about gemstones that represent the month of June. And we went over the different gemstones. We're talking. Most months have only one gemstone, or maybe two, but June has six, really more than six, but six primary gemstones that represent all the things when people think about romance, when they think about love. We talked about pearls, and you guys know that I can go on about pearls forever, but what I want you to understand about pearls is the quintessential representative of a woman. I understood that day. Those of you who watched my earlier shows, remember that woman that I met in Tahiti that I told you was breathtakingly beautiful. But what I want you to get out of that is that when she held that Tahitian stone in her hand, I couldn't tell the difference between her hand. I couldn't tell the difference between where her hand ended and where the pearl began. She just held it in her hand and just looked me in the eyes and just said, voila. Because it was at that moment why I understand, or at least begun to understand, why that one pearl was worth $40,000. $40,000 for a pearl that looked like this. Look at the color. And in pearls, it's not even just the color, it's the symmetry. It's the way, as the woman said, look at the light. Follow the light. And as I followed the pearl as it ran down the table, all I saw was this rotation of light. People relate to gemstones because I believe it makes you remember that feeling of just beauty, of loveliness, of just the way the light hits the surface of that thing, that pearl you're looking at, that woman that you're looking at. Every man, whether or not every person knows that feeling. Now, I know you can't stand him right now. He's terrible. He owes you money. But once upon a time, he was the love of your life. Once upon a time, guys, I'm talking to you. Once upon a time, that woman, you looked up to God as I did and just thanked God for bringing that woman to you, because that woman made you understand what life was about. Just holding her in your arms, standing there. That's what a pearl feels like. When you wear a pearl, and back in the day, men and women wore pearls. Pearls was something people understood. Pearls on a much deeper level. Pearls were the first gemstone, at least one of the first gems that humans related to as far as something that had value. In Japanese cultures, a pearl was the tears from a dragon. Dragons would be flying over the ocean, the Sea of Japan, and would be crying for some reason, and their tears would fall from the sky. And as they were falling, they would crystallize and become pearls. And you know that people believe that. They believed it because for 2,000 years, pearl hunters, pearl divers would go down with no oxygen, no scuba tanks, just go down to the depths of their limits, to the ultimate of the limits of holding their breath, just to obtain one in their hand, just to hold it, just to experience the way it feels against your skin. Who has not held a person in their arms against their chest, held their hands, and that person gave you that feeling? That's what I'm talking about when I say magic. I can't explain that. Those of us who have been in love before, you can't explain that feeling. I told you guys, and I was confused people. I said, I've been married 2.5 times. And I say half times because the last time we were together for 10 years and we didn't have paperwork. But I loved her. And she loved me. And I remember that once upon a time, she felt just like this. When I saw her walk across the room, all I saw was the light. All I saw was the light. I saw the colors just radiate from her skin, from her eyes. The way she looked at me. Even the color of her eyes, the way her eyes just were held in her head, reminded me of living representations of pearls. And that's just from the guy's point of view. And man, women, if you understand where pearls come from, you understand that you are a pearl, because there's no woman on the face of this earth who has not experienced pain and made it into something beautiful. What a pearl does is secretes itself with the nacre. The nacre is what makes that pearl a pearl. And hidden in those pearls, or those are cultured pearls, but hidden in the natural pearl is the source of the pain. But all you see is that pearl's reaction to the light. That's what you see when you see the person that you love. You see the way he or she, despite all the things they have gone through in their life, what is their reaction to the light? We talked about Amazonite. Amazonite never really excited me. Amazonite was just the green stone. And I never really paid attention to Amazonite until I began to understand what it means from a metaphysical point of view. Amazonite is the stone of harmony. The stone of harmony. In fact, some of the books, the ancient Egyptian books, use Amazonite to literally put their words on because they understood what it meant. First of all, we talked about earlier, green. When you have the color green is the ultimate color in regards to what the eye sees. So when you see green, you see life, you see peacefulness, the stone of harmony. So here it is, the month of June is the month of love and romance. And here you're holding in your hand is the stone of harmony. So it doesn't believe as I go through these stories, what I want you to understand is I do not have any empirical data. I cannot put on a board how many people have used Amazonite and what was the results. I can't do that. But what I know is that the power of stories, the power of the book that I tell you about all the time, As a Man Thinketh, which it says in this book, very soon so altered has his mind become that the workshop can no longer hold you. So therefore, if you understand, if you believe that Amazonite is the stone of harmony, if it works for you, then it works for you because you believe in the story. That's the connection. You believe in the story. You say to yourself, Amazonite is the name that comes from a place in the world where is the most biodiverse place on the planet. Animals and medicines and plants that we haven't even discovered, no less named. that we know have healing properties are located in that area, the Amazon River. So if you believe in the power of those plants, if you believe in the power of that region, how many times have we gone to places, obviously not as exotic as the Amazon, but we've gone to places and you knew that the Spirit of God is here. If God is not, how many times have you been to places where you just looked around and said and felt like, you know what, God is here? I don't know. I know he's everywhere or she's everywhere, but God is here. So if God is here and you can understand that and feel that in a spiritual way, why cannot Amazonite be the stone of harmony that manifests that feeling for you when you have it in your pocket, when you wear it on your earrings, when you have it, when you're wearing it on your hand? Gemstones were used in the beginning to ward off negativity. They only later on became jewelry because people wanted to maximize the time that they had it on them. When you feel it, you reach in your pocket, you look at your hand and you remember. You remember that feeling. Gemstones are used, are instruments, or time machines, really. They're time machines because you can go back to once upon a time when you felt that harmony. You felt that spirit. You felt that love. You felt what it means to literally have that understanding with not only yourself, but those around it, with the universe, with nature, with the person that you love. And what makes it really important from a scientific point of view is you have to understand that all gemstones, everything is made up of molecules. It's made up of elements put together. And because of those elements are put together in a certain way, you get Amazonite. That's what you get. And let's go back. Pearls is separate. Pearls is an organic gemstone. But Amazonite and moonstone and labradorite and sunstones, these are called feldspars. Feldspars, as I said in the earlier episode, feldspar is the most abundant gemstone or mineral in the world. 60 to 70% of all the rocks on the planet Earth are made up of some element of feldspar. Potassium, sodium, aluminum, all these elements have to come together. And even within those elements, even though it's so ubiquitous, even though they're everywhere, it's still rare to find Amazonite. It's rare, just like the person that you love. And as you get older, you really begin to understand how rare love is. People don't love anymore. People don't. And I feel really like I'm an old-fashioned guy because I still believe in romance. Jewelry reminds us of that first kiss. Gemstones remind us of when you saw, and again, I always say fill in the blank for the type of person that you love. For me, it's women. For me, it's just the beauty of a woman, not just from an external point of view, not just for what you see, because that's one of the things you learn in gemology is that beauty comes in so many different ways. I didn't really think that Amazonite, there's a lot of green gemstones, a whole bunch, and we'll go over, I'll have a whole show on just the different types of green gemstones. But the Amazonite, when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, okay. It's nice. And if someone gave it to me as a gift, I wouldn't turn away. But when you begin to understand the story, when you begin to understand where did it come from, when you begin to understand that this was the third stone on the breastplate of Moses, that so in the Bible, In the Bible, there is a passage, there is scripture that when they describe the breastplate of Moses, the third stone in was Amazonite. He didn't just pick a rock and say, hey, let's just put that in there. He used Amazonite because it had meaning to him. And it had meaning to him and the people around it. That is what romance is. When you see that person that to you, he or she is beautiful. Now, to other people, someone may say, hey, Barry, that woman is beautiful. And I'm like, who? Diane? Yeah. Oh my God. And I may not understand what he feels, but I know what he feels like, because that's how I feel. That's how I felt once upon a time. And gemstones as a way of understanding it. Like I said, I think gemstones can be used as a bridge, as an inception point to help us discover the value of our own stories, of who we are and who are the people around us. We talked about labradorite. Labradorite is the stone of magic. I mean, just think about it, the stone of magic. The Amazonite has the ability to literally not only take your dreams, but make your dreams to your dreams are manifested. Your dreams are magnified. In fact, I didn't say something about Amazonite. Amazonite takes your dreams and magnifies it. In fact, this is the gemstone of words. You see how I can take it even higher? You understood Amazonite when I talked to you about it a minute ago. Now let me take it to another level just by getting you to understand the story of it. This is the gemstone that allows your dreams to come true. It focuses, it magnifies your dreams, your aspirations, and it manifests them. Who wouldn't want to hold a stone like that in their hand, going to a job interview, going on your first date where you've dreamt that this person is the one? Please, God, let this woman go, let this man be the one. And you take that Amazonite off of your bureau, out of your drawer, in your jewelry box, you put it on, and the power that you believe is true comes true. That's Amazonite. Then when we go back to labradorite, again, comes from a region in Canada, Labrador, cold. So anything that's cold for me doesn't really work. But because of what it does to the light, it literally layers, layer after layer after layer after layer is separated. And then when the light hits it, it refracts into what we call a play of colors. A play of different colors. How do you not see the woman that you're sitting across from on the table? Across the table. The woman that you see every time you go to Jewel's or a supermarket. The woman that you met at that party, or the person that you met at that party, that was your labradorite. He or she, because of the way they reacted to the light. And only thing you wanted to do was hold their hand. To just feel, to be in the same room with them, just to share the same air with them for once. Just one time, God, please, just let me to experience that labradorite. When you held a stone in your hand, that is literally the stone of magic. What labradorite would do is literally, it gets you in tune to your own innate magical abilities. This stone helps you develop, help you to see your superpowers of who you are. Imagine how empowering, if you understand words, if you understand the power of words, of being able to speak to be able to put your words together, and those words is what makes it happen. Then you're on your journey to understand the power of gemstones, of what you're wearing. Now you begin to understand why for thousands of years that these stories have existed. So the question you have to ask yourself, Francoise, about magic, it's not whether or not I can prove it, it's whether you believe. How powerful is it for you to be in a small little town? I have more people that live in my building, in my condo, than you have in your whole entire town. But yet you and I are talking, we are seeing, we are sharing this moment together, and you're the other side of the world. And I'm talking about a stone of magic. Across an ocean, across a continent, cultural differences, religious differences, but yet here we are. The stone of magic, labradorite. And again, the stone that can be minerals that can be found in my country, the United States, your country of France, okay, in the mountains, the Pyrenees Mountains and Lorraine, France, but here we are. So is labradorite, maybe just even working with this has drawn us together, and together we are finding and discovering the innate qualities of our magic, of what we can do separately, together, and together as a world. Then we talked about sunstone. Look at the sparkles. Look at the little sparkles. Sunstone has little platelets of hematite, a different gemstone, and each platelet serves as a reflector of the light. Sunstone is the only stone, according to legend, that manifests the male aspect of the universe. Sunstone is basically the yang. It is the yang to moonstone's yin. Okay, the balance of the universe, the balance. So this is the male energy. Things like leadership, openness, compassion, true leadership. And those things can be found, so it is said, that if you wear a gemstone like sunstone, those things are going to empower you to be able to lead, to be able to do wonderful things. But of course, because we live in the 21st century, those wonderful things have to come after we talk to our sponsors. So I'll see you on the other side.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. We'll match you with the perfect buddy. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
We're offering you a free membership, so please sign up today. Share this with your friends and family, and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a Chemo Buddy for Life.
We are a Buddies Network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are Chemo Buddies for Life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
All right, we're back. I was thinking about that commercial, Chemo Buddies and Chemo Buddies for Life. And if you have been told, think about it, you have been told that you have cancer, you believe. You believe in healing. You believe in magic. You believe that your words and love coming together is going to be one of the medicines that you're going to use in order to heal you from this terrible disease. And we all know people who have survived, beaten cancer and gone on to incredible lives because of the love. Because of the love, because of the belief. That's what gemstones are. It's the belief. It's the belief that you can be healed, that you can touch someone, that, and whatever that mechanism is, whatever that movement is, whatever that thing is, could be going to church. It could be loving someone. It's around being with your children. It's about loving other people. It's that love that you believe in, and that is the magic that we're talking about. That's what gemstones are. A part of it is that magic that you want to wear around your neck and on your fingers. It reminds you of that feeling. When you look at the moon, when you go back to that relationship before you couldn't stand them, or before she was like, oh my God, why did I marry? Go back to that moment when you held her in your arms. Oh my God, I can remember so many moments where I knew that God was shining a light on just her and I. That the world just seemed to stop, and the only thing that matters was that moment. And when you look at Moonstone, that's what you see. The light that you see in her eyes is the light that I saw when I held her. It is the light that I see when I talk to you guys, see my Facebook posts, my niece or my nephew. Because I don't want to make it just the beauty of women. When I look at my nephew, I call Boogie, and when I look at just the trust, the love, even when he's jumping on the top of my head, the love that he has, the trust, that's what that represents. When the Romans said that it was the light that came from the moon, and the moonbeam came down and solidified itself into this. You can see it. Everyone has seen that feeling. Everyone has felt what it means to hold somebody, to see somebody, to regard someone with that type of light, where not only is, and the most wonderful thing is when that light is not only you're giving out that light, they could see it in you and you could see it in them. That's love. That's what this month represents, the month of love, because we are all coming out of this pandemic, and we all coming out and we're meeting and seeing people. Some of us have been cooped up in the house for a year and a half, and we're seeing people for the first time. And this is not the first time pandemics have happened in history. We weren't even connected like this hundreds and thousands of years ago. So gemstones oftentimes gave us that memory. It connected us. It reminded us of how once upon a time was, and hopefully will be again. That's what a moonstone is. And that light that follows through. That light that follows through. All this is just fibers. Fibers that when you cut a moonstone, which is just a feldspar, again, average, common, but all the molecular processes have to come together. The fibers have to line up. It has to be cut in a certain way that when you move a moonstone, the light seems to follow all the way through. That's that person that you fell in love with. Those of you who have been married, this is the month where people get married. So I'm talking to my friend Susan, who just got married to Robert. Congratulations. They're starting their journey together. And then I talk about my friend Annette from high school, who have been married for 20 some odd years. And I showed you the pictures of how the light that they had 20 some odd years ago still exists today. So when you buy a moonstone, when you wear a moonstone, you are taking the light of that moment and encapsulating it into something that you can wear, that you can feel. Remember that. In fact, I'll say that that's what a moonstone does. So we talked about pearls, we talked about moonstone, we talked about sunstone, we talked about labradorite, and today we're going to talk about one of the most phenomenal gemstones in the world, one of the rarest gemstones in the world, and that is called Alexandrite. Alexandrite is so special, not just because of the way it looks, but when you begin to understand from a scientific point of view, the magic of what happens. So put on your science hat for a second. We're not going to get too complicated. Here we go. I've already explained to you the power of an emerald. I told you that up until maybe a couple hundred years ago, emeralds was the gemstone. If you had an emerald, you were spectacularly wealthy. An emerald was the symbol of royalty for hundreds, thousands. It was the gemstone for Cleopatra. Cleopatra's power came from an emerald. And what an emerald is made up of, here's the science part. Stay with me, just the names. What an emerald is, it's a beryllium, aluminum, silicate. That's the only thing I'm asking you to do. Beryllium, aluminum, silicate. BAS. Beryllium, aluminum, silicate. That's an emerald. That's on one side. And we know how valuable emeralds are. Then on the other side, we have rubies. Rubies are red. As I told you before, rubies and sapphire is the same stone. They're called corundum. And what you need to understand is that rubies are made up of aluminum oxide. So we have beryllium. Emeralds are beryllium, aluminum, silicate. Rubies are aluminum oxide. And the thing that makes them their color is the same thing, just a hint of chromium. So here you have emerald. If you put a hint of chromium, it becomes green. If you have rubies, aluminum oxide. If you put just a hint of chromium, now it becomes red. So get this. Here we go. With Alexandrite, Alexandrite in the daytime hours is green, just like an emerald. The way it reacts to the light is, and because you have a hint of chromium, it is green. What Alexandrite is, here we go. Here's the most amazing thing from, if you're a scientist and you're a nerd, it's amazing. Emerald, beryllium, aluminum silicate, rubies, aluminum oxide. With Alexandrite, what Alexandrite is the best of both worlds. Alexandrite's structure is beryllium, aluminum oxide. I know some of you are like, and what's the big deal? Again, I'm a nerd, I'm a scientist, sorry. But it takes the best of both possible worlds. So in the daytime, it's green. And in incandescent light, it's red. And when I say incandescent light, I'm not talking about like the lights I have in here. I'm talking about I'm talking about a light bulb. Like the old kind of light bulbs, or even better, a candle. A candle, the light from a candle gets this reaction. Alexandrite is one of the most rarest gemstones in the whole world, because to get that reaction, to understand that those chemicals had to come together in such a pattern that is beyond belief that these stones even exist, and for them to both exist with a very similar chemical composition. And the thing that makes Emeralds, green, a very expensive gemstone, highly valued throughout the whole history of mankind. And then you have rubies, and next month is rubies for July. And oh my God, I can't wait to tell you about rubies. Red stones are on a whole nother level. Those of you who were born in July, bless you. Bless you. But to have Alexandrite have the best of both qualities, and for it to change in the relationship to the light. And what that speaks to is adaptability. That this is a gemstone of joy, is to be able to be adaptable no matter what the environment is. That you have learned your value, and because of your value, you have learned how to interact with the light in a different way. In fact, when they found Alexandrite at first, they were mining in a region that had emeralds. That's what they were looking for. Alexandrite didn't come about until about 1830. It was named Alexandrite after Alexander II. I can't pronounce his last name. So before he even became the Tsar, but eventually he became he had Alexander was his name. He had some Russian name, which I won't even try to change or pronounce. And then he became the Tsar, and they named Alexandrite after him. Unfortunately, he got assassinated, but that's a whole nother story. But because of the colors, this was immediately seen as a stone of royalty, Russian royalty. And because the colors, the imperial colors of Russia at that time was green and red, it spoke to them. In fact, Alexandrite was the last gemstone in the 19th century that people truly still felt the metaphysical aspects. Not saying it didn't exist, and obviously it still does. But for much of the Western world, as we got further and further or more and more into science and began to lose our connection to the natural world, Alexandrite was one of the last gemstones that still had that power for people. That people still related to joy. The adaptation. Imagine holding or wearing this gemstone, and this gemstone, this is what you need to go through right now. And we all need to learn how to adapt to a different job, to a different place that we're living, to a different finances, to a different partner. We need to learn how to adapt, how to interact with the light of our environment. Gemstones can be a way. When you begin to understand the story of a gemstone, when someone has told you that story, and as I told you before many, many times, and I will repeat many, many times, nothing has value without a story. So if you are going through the things that you've gone through in your life, whether it be cancer, whether it be divorce, whether it be all the different things that you've gone through, what is the story that you are not only telling yourself, but what is the story that you're telling everybody around you? Discover the value of your story. So how is something that was pretty new in regards to gemstones, found in 1830, which of course diamonds and emeralds have been around for thousands of years, but yet, despite that, the universe has created something that has the best of all possible worlds. Isn't that how you feel about the person that you love right now? When you have been married before, been in God knows relationships before, and it didn't work out, don't you need to be adaptable? Don't you need to understand the story of the person that you're falling for? What is their story? Again, gem identification. Who are they? Who are they, and how do you react with them, and how do they react with you, and how do you both react to the light? What is the energy that your relationship or who you are is going to, what is going to be given off? Everything that we relate to in our world is made up of chemicals and elements put together in such a way. And just like this, it's just basically beryllium, aluminum oxide. Okay. Just like, and so if this is the power for something that's made up of just three elements, beryllium, aluminum, oxide, oxygen. If that's what is, just imagine the value of who you are with hundreds and thousands of chemical compositions being put together in such a way that when you were born, God just basically said, voila. I like to at least think that when God made me, that's what he said. Voila. And that's what you have to say in your mind, that you are no different than this. You are no different than a gemstone. The molecular forces that had to come together for you, the environmental forces that had to come together, the things that you had to go through, the way you had to be cut, the way you had to be fashioned. Alexandrite just doesn't come like this. You have to see it. You have to understand what it looks like when you're cutting it. You have to understand, how do I maximize this gem material where it reacts to the light in such a way that when you see it, you see the colors, you see the scintillation. When you look at sunstone, and you see the sparkling of the light. Remember that scene in Forrest Gump when he's describing living on the bayou to Jenny? And he describes how beautiful the light looked on the water, and how it was just millions and millions of sparkling light. That's sunstone. That's what he felt when he saw Jenny. And I'm sorry, getting a little emotional about it, because that's just love. That's what this month is the month of love, of being able to see who someone is. Not because society says she's pretty or society says he's handsome or whatever else is, but what you see. What that gem, that person that you have in front of you, what is the relationship that you have with them? That's what this month is about. This is a month of rebirth. This is the month of just light manifesting in such a way. And you, unlike a gemstone, is you have the ability to be whatever you want it to be. You could be a pearl. You could be a pearl. You could be a moonstone. Look at this. Look at all the colors. Pick which one you want to be. Pick the colors. Pick the way you want to interact with the light, and let the world see that. Because you have to understand that a pearl there's an old African saying that a pearl doesn't become a pearl until after it leaves the shell. Think about that. Think about how a pearl is made from a irritant, from a painful situation, from a UTI being implanted inside of your body. Forcibly, either by the bacteria seeping in or by a pearl cutter fashioning it, making it, and out of that comes something beautiful. How does that relate to you in your journey, in your adventure of your life? So I really hope that you enjoyed the month of June. This is the last day. Enjoy the day of wherever you are. And next week, we're going to talk about rubies. And again, that's on a whole nother level. So I hope you join me. Please continue to send your emails, your questions, your comments. Thank you, Francoise. Thank you so much from all the way in France. Let's give Francoise a hand. Thank you so much. And always take the time, take a moment in your day to discover the value of your own stories. Au revoir.
I feel it burn. I've never felt this way before. I've had a taste.